Family is hot in the ATL. Drink lots of water and stay cool during your ride home.
The baddest man on the box, Michael BAISDEN.
All right, coming back next, Dr. Cornel West and Tavis Smiling. George, you ready? You ready to have this conversation?
I am ready. I'm more than ready.
You know, the poverty rate is, and for me, it's all about the issues. You know, it's all about the 21% of kids that are living in poverty. It's all about the highest poverty rate since 1949. It's about the fact that the net worth of whites in this country is $116,000, and the net worth of blacks is $5,000. Net worth of Latinos, $6,000.
Right.
The net worth, $5,000.
Every time I hear those numbers, I'm amazed.
And I hope that we can get past the name-calling and personal attacks, as I said, on both sides, so we can start dealing with these issues. I mean, let's face it, we could be doing better. And could the president be doing better? Of course he could. He could be doing better if the Congress would be more supportive. And I think that we could do better in terms of the policies and drawing some lines and having some fights over some things. People are ready to fight. So there's nothing wrong with being critical or constructively critical of our president. I think he expected from us. In fact, I think we help him by doing that, as long as we do it with the right tone. It's coming up next. Tavis Smiling and Dr. Cornel West putting it down with a classic, Bobby Caldwell, What You Won't Do for Love, on the Michael BAISDEN Show. Welcome back to the Michael BAISDEN Show. As you all know, there's been a lot of controversy and a lot of name calling going back and forth regarding the poverty tour with Dr. Cornel West and Tavis Smiley. They're going to be joining us in a second. And G-Dub, I know you've been wanting to have this conversation with them for a minute.
Absolutely, I have. You know as I do how important all these issues are. So these are leaders in our minds and in the respects for black people. So it's important that we stay on focus.
And I'm wondering whether we're prepared as black people and as people in general to hear both sides of the story. It's not about right and wrong sometimes. Sometimes it's about a different perspective. So let me ask you all this first and foremost. How's the campaign going, the poverty tour going?
We wrapped it in Memphis just a day or so ago, Michael. It went extremely well, and I really am honored to be back on your program because there's been so much information about this tour over the last few days. And I wonder if you would just give me 35 seconds to make 5 points, if I can, right quick. Number one, poverty is an acid that will ultimately dissolve our democracy. This is not about one man. It's not about one election. It's not about the future of our country. It is, rather, about the future of this country. Number two, note that the persons who have been criticizing during this poverty tour the most don't have to live every day on the least. If the critics saw what we saw, heard what we heard, and felt what we felt, Michael, on this tour, then they would be compelled themselves to say what they see. Some of this pushback that we have been getting is really about silencing the grievances of the poor. You well know, being a history buff, Michael, and George, that too often in history, black folk and poor people have had their grievances silenced every time they attempt to raise their voices so that their suffering remains invisible. The bottom line is we're not going to get less vocal. We're going to get more vocal. Point number three, we got to stop talking about each other and start talking about the priorities. Poverty cannot be peripheral. The eradication of poverty is essential for the sustainability of our nation. Point number four, respect, protect, correct. Respect, protect, correct. Respect the president always. Protect the president against vicious, vitriolic, and vulgar right-wing attacks. But in love, correct the president when the people around him push him in the wrong direction. And finally, Dr. West is a tenured professor. In other words, like a Supreme Court justice, he has a job for life. And I've been blessed to do well enough to retire right now in my mid-40s if I wanted to. So why do this? Because when you love people, you hate seeing them treated unjustly or unfairly. We choose to side with the poor. We choose to side with the underprivileged. This, for us, Michael and George, simply is a choice, and we stand by it.
And Dr. Cornel West, let me ask you this, and let's get this out the way so we can talk about the issues. Is the message being lost in the name-calling and personal attacks on both sides?
Well, there's no doubt, though, that when you engage in vicious attacks on individuals rather than keep track of the suffering of the people, that it's another form of distraction. And this is what I think is unfortunate. And I think even in the case of Brother Steve Harvey, it's fairly clear. I've got great respect for his art. I think his comedy has enriched my life, but he lacks political sophistication. That's why I'm so glad that you were kind enough, courageous enough, visionary enough to have a conversation. When you're dealing with the plight of poor people and the role of oligarchs and plutocrats and the relation of politicians or oligarchs, like the Tim Geithner's and Larry Summers who were tied to the oligarchs, we have to be able to tell the truth, and name-calling gets in the way. That doesn't mean we don't appreciate other aspects of the person, but you have to be honest. Why? Because people are suffering. And so the name-calling is nothing but another form of mass distraction that stimulates and titillates and doesn't illuminate. It does not tell the truth about the suffering. That's what the tour was all about.
You know, TAVIS told me a long time ago, George and Juan, he said, you got to love black people to work for black people.
Mm-hmm.
And you do, because we push back a lot. But how do we get that message through when people are still focusing on your situation, TAVIS, with the president from not being invited to the event, when they focus on Dr. Cornel West's comments about the president, about him being afraid to free black men and the inauguration tickets? How do we get past that to focus on stuff that's destroying people every day?
Well, there are two answers. That one, you keep preaching the same message. That's why you don't let the haters get you down. You don't let the haters distract you. As Dr. West said, these weapons of mass distraction, you got to stay focused on the issue, which is why you've not heard until today Dr. West or I even really respond to the Steve Harvey mess or Tom Joyner mess. We don't call persons by name. We don't call them names. We try to stay focused on the issue. We're only addressing these questions now because you were kind enough and courageous enough, as Doc said, to ask. But at the end of the day, you got to keep the focus on the things that matter. What matters in this case is poverty and what's going to happen to black people when these cuts start to kick in. So the short answer is you just got to keep saying it over and over and over again and reminding them that you're doing it because you love them. I love Barack Obama. I love black people more, and I hate seeing them catch hell.
Dr. Cornel West, what do you want to say about that? Because I had a chance to watch a bunch of your interviews last night. I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning researching this. And I understand people's perspective of you has changed in a sense, because obviously you're well respected by everybody. And they're wondering, where is it coming from? Is it personal, or is it just, what is it?
Well, one is people have to realize that I opposed Clinton when he signed the vicious welfare bill, when he signed the vicious crime bills, mandatory sentences. I went to jail under Bush because of domestic policy as well as international policy. That I've been consistent for the last 40 years. People could read my first book, 1982. I was a revolutionary Christian concerned about poor people and critical of oligarchs and plutocrats. So whatever color of the politician, I'm going to be critical that the politician is siding with the oligarchs. And when you look at the economic team, the Geithners and others of the Obama administration, they gave jobs an afterthought. That's why we catching hell.
All right, keep it locked here on the Michael BAISDEN Show. We're coming back with more calls to Dr. Cornel West and TAVIS Smiley about their poverty tour and about the name-calling and personal attacks on both sides.
The baddest man on the box, Michael BAISDEN.
Welcome back to the Michael BAISDEN Show. We're continuing our conversation with Dr. Cornel West and TAVIS Smiley about the name-calling and the attacks. Before we went on break, Dr. West, you were saying how the cuts are going to make matters worse for poor people and how corporate America have more profits than ever. What were you saying on that?
Wall Street was primary. Wall Street is doing well. CEO salary is the highest they've ever been. Corporate profits are making records. 75% of corporate profits based on layoffs in the last year. I'm concerned about the people being laid off. So when I'm critical of Barack Obama, it's a matter of principle. Of course, I supported the brother 65 events. I love the brother. I love his family. But at the same time, as a Christian, I have to be true to what my calling is, and the calling is being in solidarity with folks who are suffering.
Well, I got to be honest, too. I didn't like the way it went down with TAVIS and the president when he was invited to the TAVIS State of the Union. I'm not sure if that's what it's called. I was disappointed when I heard your comments, some of the comments about the president, and I was disappointed when I heard Steve's comments about you, and I was disappointed when I heard Tom's comments. When you use words like traitor and Uncle Tom, that's going way too far.
And it's so divisive that
there's nothing worse you can call a black man than Uncle Tom.
Absolutely.
Hey, Michael, let me respond right quick. I want to set the record straight on this. I've done this 1,000 times, and people continue to ignore this, or maybe they're just not aware of it. When people reference specifically me and whether or not I have a personal beef with the president, in 2008, we invited then Senator Barack Obama to join us on the State of the Black Union panel in New Orleans. We invited Hillary Clinton to come. Both of those two persons were the finalists for the nomination, as we all know. Senator Clinton decided to come. Senator Obama decided not to come. No one can find anywhere on the record where I ever said anything about Senator Obama negative. I've never done that. People have surmised that that is my beef with the president. I've never said anything about Senator or President Barack Obama other than things that are about holding him accountable. But the following year in 2009, here's the point. 2009, 1 year later, when he was the president of the United States, President Barack Obama joined us for the 10th anniversary of that same State of the Black Union and opened his remarks by saying, "Let me start today by thanking and congratulating my friend Tavis Smiley for 10 years of the State of the Black Union." My point is simply this. If you think my beef with him is because he didn't show up in 2008 as a senator, and he did show up in 2009 as the first black president of the United States to that annual conference, what then is the beef about?
Wow, if he showed up and congratulations, that should have been the end of that.
Absolutely.
As the president, that's my point.
Dr. Cornel West, I gotta leave you with this last one. When somebody calls you, or even references, or even jokes about calling someone who is sacrificed as much as you have a Uncle Tom, I know that you're being appropriate in your response, but that upset me a lot. It did. I don't like when we start calling each other names like that, because now we're getting caught up in the hype and making matters worse. What do you say?
Well, when somebody calls me an Uncle Tom, that's like calling me an Eskimo or saying I'm a star in the National Hockey League. It's so far removed from my sense of who I am. That is just ridiculous, ludicrous, preposterous, and it's hard to take seriously. Somebody say that. But for me, I just go into prayer, not just Wednesday night, but every night. But nobody's going to push me so low that I'm going to hate them. It's just that it's clear that they lack political analysis and sophistication. That's all.
Yeah. I just want to move on and focus on the fact that, as you said, that this is the lowest poverty rate for our children since 1949. I believe 21% of our children live in poverty, which is the highest ever. Unemployment rate for African Americans is 17%. For everybody else, is not too much better. But this is not good. We got a bad situation here.
And we have to stay on message, like Tavis said.
It's a matter of national security, and if people don't have a sense of urgency, I just ask them, where's their love? That's all. It's Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway. Where is the love here?
Because when you think about it, the opposing side, they are staying on message. They are not letting anything distract them from what their goals are. And so for us as the people who obviously need to fight for poor people and people who don't have it, it's imperative that we stay on message.
And Michael, as bad as things are, we have to underscore it's about to get worse. When these cuts start to kick in that are part of that debt ceiling legislation, when these cuts start to kick in, as bad as things are now, they are about to get worse. If we're not going to raise our voices now, when are we? So the question is not why we're doing what we're doing. It's why you ain't doing nothing. It's not why we're saying what we're saying. It's why you ain't saying nothing. This is about to get worse long before, for black folk, if it ever gets better.
I tell you what, anytime anybody wants to criticize you guys, they definitely better show up with their credentials first, because you got to be careful of calling people out when people are going to start looking at your record of what you've done and how long you've been doing it, and then the truth is going to come out. Dr. Cornel West, thank you very much. Of course, Tavis Smiley, the poverty tour, of course, is it wrapped up, or what's going on? Where we at?
Officially ended in Memphis, Tennessee, where Dr. King gave his life for poor people.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here on the Michael BAISDEN Show. Coming back with more of your calls and your comments about what's going on. You make me happy.